This is Cameron and Hannah's statistics final project. The questions that we asked for our survey were, on average, how many hours a week do you spend studying? And then our second question was, do you work at least part-time?
For our initial results, we made a pie chart to show that at least 85% of those who partook in the survey work at least part-time, while the other 14% do not work at least part-time. For our initial results, we also created two histograms. They show that the data is skewed to the left in both of those who work at least part-time and those who do not. This shows that in both groups, people still tend to study less than 20 hours a week. It also displays the mean and median for both groups. The mean is skewed by outliers while the median is not. We also created box plots for each the yes and no groups, and they both show outliers. These outliers are located on the right side for those who study more than 30 hours a week. Outliers have the ability to skew data results. We also created two different tables. Our first table on top is the entire sample population, so 333. The bottom table is split into yes and no, whether or not they work part-time. We calculated the mean, median, variance, standard deviation, standard error, and population size because they're important factors when considering our data set.
Next, we have our parameter estimations. So for our first parameter estimation, we did one for the average number of hours spent studying for the entire group, and the mean of this is 12.92. So with our confidence interval, we have 95% confidence that there is a true average number of hours spent studying for all participants falls between 11.90 and 13.95. Our next parameter estimation was the average number of hours spent studying for those who work part-time at least is 12.63. Our confidence interval shows that we have 95% confidence that there's a true average number of hours spent studying for those who work at least part-time will fall between 12.57 and 12.69. And for our final parameter estimation, we have the average number of hours spent studying for those who don't work at least part-time. The mean would be 14.67. Our confidence interval shows that we have 95% confidence that the true average number of hours spent studying for those who work part-time will fall between 14.9 and 15.15. Next, we performed a two-sample hypothesis test, and we came up with a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. Our null hypothesis said that there is no difference between the average number of hours spent studying per week between those who work at least part-time and for those who do not. And our alternative hypothesis was that there is a difference between the average number of hours spent studying each week between those who work at least part-time and for those who do not. We came up with a conjecture for this, and we said that we expected that for those who work at least part-time, they will spend less time on average studying versus those who do not work at least part-time, just due to the fact that people who do not work part-time have more time on their hands to study. And below you can see our hypothesis test results. We have our p-value and our t-value, and you can see our mu1 is represented by students who do not work at least part-time, and mu2 is represented by students who do work at least part-time. Next, we have our two-sample hypothesis test results. So you can see that we have an assumed significance level of 0.05 and a p-value of 0.25, and our t-stat is 1.17. Since the p-value is greater than the significance level, since 0.25 is greater than 0.05, we fail to reject the null hypothesis that there is no difference between the average number of hours spent studying per week for those who work at least part-time and for those who do not. So this means there is not sufficient evidence to support the alternative hypothesis that there is a difference between the average number of hours spent studying each week for those who work at least part-time and for those who do not. So as far as the conjecture goes that we introduced on the previous slide, We did anticipate that those who did not work at least part-time would study more, meaning they have more time to study, so that the average would be higher for those who do not work at least part-time. So there's not enough information to show that there's a meaningful difference between these average numbers of hours spent studying for those who work part-time and for those who do not.